Protests in solidarity with Palestinians have gained momentum worldwide. This as thousands take to the streets demanding an urgent ceasefire in Gaza. From Canada to Pakistan, the protests have grown louder and louder, amplifying the urgent need for peace and resolution in this humanitarian crisis. Now, in Canada, let's start right off from there. Several protesters gathered outside the U.S. Consulate General in Toronto, rallying in support of Palestine and demanding a ceasefire in Gaza. They criticized the attacks by Israel, and several Jewish protesters said how a genocide was being done in their name.
We're here as Jews to stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people, demanding an immediate ceasefire, demanding Israel let in humanitarian aid. They've only let in a shameful 80 trucks, end the genocide, end the occupation. And Canadian complicity in all this. Secondly, to speak to all my fellow Jews, I think we are all, a lot of us are descendants of the Holocaust, and we all need to look deep down inside because this is straight up genocide and it's being done in our name.
Meanwhile, London witnessed two waves of protests, where protesters demonstrated in solidarity with both Palestinians and Israelis. Thousands gathered in central London, waving Palestinian flags, scarves and banners, showing their solidarity with Palestine. Protesters demanded an end to Israel's attacks in the Gaza Strip as they chanted slogans like "Free Palestine." Then on the other hand, protesters gathered outside the Qatari embassy in London to show solidarity with Israel, and even called for the release of hostages held by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. A chain of demonstrators lined up in front of the embassy, waving Israeli flags and holding flyers with names and pictures of the hostages taken by Hamas on the attack on Israel on the 7th of October. Now, thousands of people protested in central Madrid in solidarity with Palestinians this time. Protesters marched towards the Sol Square, chanting slogans like "It's not war, it's genocide," and demanded a ceasefire. Next, let's take a look at what's happening in Lebanon. Hundreds of protesters took to the streets for a rally in support of the Palestinians. A large crowd of protesters gathered in front of Al Amin Mosque in the Lebanese capital, waving Palestinian flags, demanding an end to the genocide in Gaza.
I want to address the entire world. You are watching while pure blood is being shed. Take a strong and courageous stance. Say no to the genocide happening on this small land in an area with a little population. Stop the genocide.
More protests were seen in the South Asian region as well. We're talking about Pakistan. Thousands of supporters of Pakistan's biggest party marched through the streets of the capital city, Islamabad, rallying in support of Palestine. Participants of the Gaza March turned the streets into a sea of Palestinian flags, urging the Pakistani government to support Palestine. All right, next let's take a look at what's happening in Australia. Thousands of pro-Palestinian supporters protested in Sydney. Protesters chanted slogans in support of Palestinians and against Israeli attacks.